on YouTube. It is Samantha, and I am covered in oil, so I look super greasy because I got back from a massage. I put my C1 out, so I had vertigo really bad and was like drunkenly stumbling around the house. So yeah, you guys, look how much I have aged. Look, I have like crow's feet now. If we like fast forward to my videos back in like when I was 26, now I'm 30. It's interesting seeing the difference. And this is due to having a toddler and the whole being a parent thing, because sleep deprivation is like a very real thing. And I read a study about how sleep deprivation actually eats the gray matter in your brain. And I feel like, yes, like this is preaching my story. I feel like I've gotten like significantly dumber in some ways, or at least like my cognitive processing has gone down since becoming a parent, just because you're tired and your attention and energy like goes into this other little person. So they're wonderful little soul suckers in a way where they just take my energy. But I absolutely adore being a parent. So what have you guys been up to? Hopefully everything has been going well. It is winter in Traverse City, Michigan, so we've got like this going on. There's some snow, and you guys, I finally got a standing desk. So I don't have to have like office chair butt. Watch this. Bum, 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 bum. I feel like there should be epic music, and you get to see the remnants of my lunch. Anyways, super cool, so I can just lean on this. But yeah, so I'm excited to be able to stand. And I'm actually looking forward to having veins in my feet over having really horrific posture and being unhealthy. So anyways, yeah, we went through some really hard losses for 2018, and hopefully you guys had a better 2018. But you know, life, there's ups and downs, right? And so here's to 2019 being an awesome time, but we were expecting a second baby, which we were trying for like 8 months and starting to get frustrated. We're like, why you no work? Like, what's wrong with that department? And then we miscarried in October, so that was really hard to go through. And then Annabelle, Miss Annie the Bulldog, she almost died during a nail trimming. I'm not even making this up or exaggerating, because like that's how messed up my life is usually. It's things that you're like, am I reading a book? Is this a movie? And like, nope, it's just how it goes. So you just got to learn to roll with the punches. But Annie went in for a nail trim, and she has anxiety. She's my little sensitive Southern belle. And she, mid-nail trim, passes out, has a seizure, and then stopped breathing, and they had to intubate her. Sorry, I had to figure out which came first. So yeah, passed out, seizure, and then stopped breathing, and I was like, oh my God. And the ironic part is several days before, I was like, why do I take Annie to get her nails trimmed at the vet? You know, like I could just take her to a groomer for like $10 cheaper, you know? And then that's why. So, because had she been at a groomer, she probably would have died. So that was really scary. She's doing much, much better now, so that's good. But yeah, scary things like that happen. And then poor Jack the Macker, Bulldog, we had to put him down on November 25th. Hopefully I won't cry. Oh God, it was so sad. He had a cyst that exploded on his neck, and I think that's how his MRSA started. He had dog MRSA, which is like MRS. So it doesn't usually typically transfer to humans, thankfully, unless you give it a crazy like level 3, tier 3 antibiotic, and then it can start mutating and transfer to humans. So anyway, so he got MRSA. We knew he was getting progressively sick, but we weren't sure. It went systemic. Thank God for oregano oil. Like most people that go septic and animals go septic don't last for very long. For at least 2 weeks, he had been septic, and we didn't even realize it. And the oregano oil was holding him off while these other antibiotics they were giving him wasn't working, and we couldn't figure out why. So we took him down to Michigan State University, my old school. Woo, woo, go green. And it turns out Jack also was fighting a thing called pemphigus, which is like an autoimmune thing, and in order to suppress it, you give a crap ton of steroids. But the problem is that the steroids that he needed were blocking the effectiveness of like the antibiotics in the body's immune system, just trying to fight off this MRSA infection. And there was just no way around it. He fought for like 3 weekends. I had a feeling he was going to die there. I was like, oh my God, taking him there. I was like, I didn't want to leave him. It was like one of those pit in the stomach feelings where I was like, oh, they're going to kill him. And so anyways, I came down Sunday night and I put him to sleep because I couldn't stand seeing him like that anymore. There was no hope for it, even after a blood transfusion and crazy stuff. And looking back, I feel like Jack's death had to be that dramatic and insane because I wouldn't have given up fighting. I wouldn't have. I love that Bulldog. So, but yeah, so Annie's still my little compadre hiding behind the desk over here. So looking at us. Wait, I'm going to try to. These are wounds from my toddler, so from Cam, the toddler. Yeah, so when you have a 2-year-old, or even, like a 1-year-old on up, they don't disclose to you that you're going to get your ass kicked, basically, by your kid. And, they bite, they claw, they scratch, they'll slap you sometimes, and usually at a baby age, they just do it because you make a funny face, and like, oh, this is amusing, but you're like, don't do that. So we tried a bunch of different methods, but sometimes Cam, gets so excited about something, he doesn't realize that he's, death gripping my hand, and so, yeah, so got some bruises. And Cam smashed his head open on a desk a couple weeks ago, and they would have had to put him under to do stitches, so we just, super glued it, like a medical glue. And you can use super glue, too, but it stings more than medical glue. And medical glue is supposed to be more sterile in theory, but... and sometimes, honestly, the wounds, heal a little bit nicer. You don't have those, pock marks, from where stitches and staples and things go. So yeah, so his head's healing nicely. I am busy running a company, so Timeless Media Productions. So we do a lot of weddings and commercial production and stuff. And then on top of that, I was running a vacation rental business, and it's just, in order to have flexibility and freedom in a way, I've also given away my freedom. I can't escape work. Even when we go on vacations, I have to be on my phone and stuff, and it's meh. I think for 2019, I'll scale back a bit. I'm no longer managing this other person's rental, but going to just do ours. And then hopefully when our other baby comes around and we're expecting again, and that baby's born, I think we'll just I'll probably try to stay home and give up a lot of work or something while my hubby Ron runs his construction business. So we'll see. But yeah, do you guys get horns like this? Do you like that? So, yeah, I'm looking amazing, just dapper and dazzling. So I hope you guys are doing well. I know the world seems crazy and everyone's just so angry. But I think if we hang in there, we'll get through it, right? I post about weird stuff, at least on my Facebook page. I'll post about different things and sometimes conspiracy theories and other stuff like that. And I think it's interesting. I always look for truth, even if it's just a tiny strand of truth in everything. I try to approach it open-minded. But it was interesting way back when, before the Trump administration started, or Trump's term, I had started researching about how we were going to go through another solar cycle. And this one individual, and I forget their name, had studied the phases of humanity, of aggression and world wars and battles and then pivotal events and humanitarian good things and how they cycled throughout time. What was interesting is they actually correlated with solar cycles, and I think it was every 7 or 14 years. It was some crazy thing, but it would flow in peaks. And during solar flares and such, I personally have seen that where people get super aggressive. It messes with our electromagnetic field, so you'll see technology issues, things like that. And so this chart actually linked that, and so eventually we are rising to the peak, so more anger, more issues, maybe war, that bull crap, until about Trump would be up for his second term, I believe. So it's just interesting to see how the world is so divided and opinionated and angry, and we need to focus on being united and doing what's best for everybody, being kind to one another. And it's so hard when we're faced with such aggressive and divided times, if that makes sense. But but I feel there's awareness. People are becoming more aware, more educated. I think the information age is actually really cool with technology in some ways. But I also think we're missing a lot of community and connection. We don't have healthy touch anymore, So I think it's great that kids at daycare hug one another and they teach each other healthy touching and stuff because people need that. We need those endorphins and healthy chemicals and that connection, that community. Because even though we're so globally connected with communications, global communications and such, interpersonally, in our life, we're so isolated. And I think it's 74% of people, maybe 72% of people, feel lonely, which is really sad. That's sad. We feel lonely. And is it like perceived loneliness or is it actual physical loneliness? I think it's like a perception. We feel lonely even though we're in a room full of people, right? And so how do we change that? And so I think it's important to reach out to one another, pass on acts of kindness, people. That shit gets me going. That stuff gets me good. I love when people do nice things. Like yesterday, because I'm a dumbass, I was trying to lift a 90-pound UPS box after getting adjusted, trying to fix my C1, and it just still would not go back into place. And I was like, screw it. I'm going to go lift some more boxes because I got to get these things returned and shipped out. And this lovely older gentleman came over and was like, you look like you need help. I couldn't get the box out of the car, so I looked like this little, like, drunk hamster trying to straddle a giant ball and like slipping and sliding off. And he's like, let me help you. And I was like, oh, God bless you. Like, thank you so much. And so, yeah, so one of those things that gets me excited is when people do random acts of kindness. And so I always try to pass that on or do that for other people as well, too. And one good thing in that step, I guess, is Michigan, Governor Snyder, who I didn't like, but in one of his last bills being passed, I do approve of this. Bullying is actually like criminal now in Michigan. If your bullying leads to like physical harm, so say someone committed suicide or someone's hurting themselves, you can go to jail or prison. And even up until that, there's like a $500 fine, all these other things where if you're proven to be bullying through whatever means, like actions will be taken against you. And supposedly, if I read this correctly, it applies towards children and adults. But, I feel like we need that. Like, everyone just, like, you don't have something nice to say unless you're trying to make a change in the world, like, just shush, shush. Like, don't pass on negative things. And I was always taught that hurtful words are like if you had a board and you stuck a bunch of nails in the board, and the nails are the bad words, right? And you pull those nails out, sure, you took the nails out, but the trauma and the damage to the board is still there. Those holes still exist. And so I think it's important for people to practice being much more conscious of their actions, words, their energy, and what they are putting out into the world. So hopefully we'll have more awareness and people be more considerate about that these days. So yeah, the sun is coming out, you guys. Look at that. So in Michigan, you can't even tell. But anyways, Michigan in the wintertime, you don't get a lot of sunlight. So then you turn pasty and opaque like this, and you lack vitamin D, and so you start going crazy too, or get sick and all that fun stuff. So I try to combat that in the wintertime with elderberry syrup. Holy cow. So they finally have some studies out there, but, Big Pharma unfortunately blocks a lot of studies for things that don't have patents because they don't equal profit. So unfortunately, Big Pharma controls what gets studied, what doesn't get studied, what gets published, which doesn't through funding. And unfortunately, a lot of our journals are actually manipulated by those special interests of corporations. So people don't want to hear that, but it is true. And so if it's not published, it doesn't even, get really studied further for teaching for professors and teaching doctors and things like that. So there's a lot of remedies out there that actually are legit, but because they don't have sufficient studies or even any study, it's never taught about, it's never researched, things like that. And people dismiss it as being like, oh, it's because it doesn't work. But it's really patent and profit driven in many ways. There's always a time and place for our Western medicine, and we do amazing things, but there's stuff like elderberry syrup versus Tamiflu. So with influenza and the flu, elderberry syrup on average cut the flu, and colds, it works for colds too, but cut the flu on average by 4 days. Okay, natural, plant-based, inexpensive, anyone can make it, have it, use it, it's fantastic. If you're using elderberry syrup with honey in it, make sure you're not giving it to kids under the age of 1 because of botulism stuff with honey, but you can make your own without honey. That's still safe for younger ones. Compared to Tamiflu, which has a risk of like psychotic events, and there are some insane cases I've read about where people have had psychotic episodes and like a younger girl trying to kill her parents, really crazy things. And what was the efficacy of Tamiflu in reducing the flu? 3/4 of 1 day. So it's one of those things that it's expensive, probably. I don't know if it's expensive, but usually most pharmaceuticals are, and hopefully insurance covers things like that. But it's just those things where I'm like, why don't people use like natural methods? Like that is where medicine came from, the original medicine. And we still copy and synthesize plant-based chemical compounds. Like people have a hard time understanding or actually believing that plants have chemical compounds, just like our synthetic drugs, and like that's where they came from. And it's interesting, for like oregano oil, just oregano, wild oregano, has a much more complex chemical compound than a lot of our synthetic drugs. And it's fascinating. Like I studied, like holistic and functional integrative medicine on the side for fun, literally just for fun. For the last like 7 or 8 years, but people are like, oh, you're not a doctor. I'm like, I know that. And I'm like not bashing on doctors, but I'm glad I'm not indoctrinated into like that kind of institution where I only know about pharmaceutical drugs. Like if I were to be a doctor, I'd be like in holistic stuff or plant-based medicine. Try that first. If that doesn't work, then yes, absolutely, it's important. We have drugs and procedures and surgeries and things like that to help with things that plant-based medicine and other stuff can't conquer. But I think it's a balance. And I feel like we're missing that balance here in our Western industrialized countries. So yeah, anyways, so it's a big, long rant. Things are going well. I miss you guys. I'm just really gross and, like, not having time to post things. So, but I hope you guys are doing well. I have plenty of other videos about, like, milk kefir, turmeric, oregano oil. Maybe I'll make a thing about elderberry syrup. But taking care of your body and healing your gut, where your immune system is, and avoiding harmful foods, often foods that contain glyphosate, all this other stuff. Can really make a difference if you have autoimmune conditions, thyroid stuff, and really put you on the right path so that your body can heal. Because I do believe that if we provide the body with everything that it needs, treating deficiencies and supplementing with X, Y, and Z, that the body can heal itself. Our bodies are actually amazing, and we don't let them do their job sometimes, like a fever. Fevers are a good thing up until like 103, 104, then it's starting to get high. But a fever is like an oven, a self-cleaning oven system for your body to kill those bacteria and viruses. And that's effective. So a lot of people, unfortunately, yes, they're uncomfortable to go through, but you shouldn't stop a fever unless there's other, factors involved that, make it unique to your situation. But anyways, so I'm happy to see some doctors out there are like, oh, no, you don't need to treat that fever. The body's trying to clean itself out and get rid of this stuff and fight it. And sometimes when you do fever reducers like acetaminophen, or I think ibuprofen also has fever reducing capabilities, and other ones like, you are prolonging illness somewhat in the body because the body's not able to cook and clean it off, if that makes sense. So I always recommend, unless it's really horrible, just tough it out. Give your body rest and time to heal, and don't push yourself so hard, right? Because we always seem to get sick when we've been pushed too hard. Which brings me to this, and then I'll quit my yakking. So it was about 2 days after Jack had died, and I hate saying it, but it's true, like when I killed Jack. But after I put Jack down, 2 days later, I got a thing called Geographic Tongue, and they're like, doctors don't know what causes it. It could be stress. And I'm like, for sure it's stress. So I don't know if you can see it. We'll look at my tongue in a weird way. So there's a ring here and a ring here, and then a larger ring further down my tongue. And basically, it's stress related. So, and I find it interesting that the tongue is affected. In Ayurvedic and Eastern medicine, they believe that the tongue is kind of like a map for the rest of your body. And what's really interesting, the tip of the tongue and a little bit further back are like your heart. And I remember when Jack had died, I was heartbroken, like 3 days of heavy duty mourning. But for like a good week, there was just this heaviness, a physical heaviness on my chest that I couldn't get rid of. It almost felt like anxiety, but I wasn't anxious. I was just very sad. But anyways, my heart was like hurting, and I did not feel good. And all of a sudden, these things started showing up. And so that part of your tongue is supposed to be linked to your heart. Who knows? But yeah, I've heard about supplementing with like B12, and I think magnesium sometimes helps with this as well. But yeah, hopefully my tongue will go back to normal, because it's just weird. I just have like weird patterns on my tongue. Yeah. So that's cool. So I pushed myself too much. I was really sad and heartbroken, and then my body was just like, yeah, screw this. Like, here's some weird stuff we're going to start throwing your way, and it's why it's true. It's like, we got to heal. Don't avoid mourning, like dive into those feelings and like process them and then release them. And Apparently, I'm still struggling with something. I think it's just stress. I've had a lot of crazy work stuff lately, even though I love to believe that in the wintertime things will slow down, but then they don't. So take care of yourselves. Take care of your mind, body, and soul, because we definitely are spiritual beings, and our mental states do affect us physically. I feel like this is a perfect example. So I'm going to quit yakking because we're at 20 minutes, you guys. I hope you guys are doing fantastic, and I'll talk to you eventually. All right, I love you much. Bye-bye.